Welcome to True Crime Trolls. In today's episode, we will dive into the dark side of obsession. Get ready for some chilling stories that will scare and relax you. And after we unravel these tales, I've got a soothing rain soundscape to help you drift off to sleep. So, get cozy, settle in, and let's begin. In the town of Portslade, England, life moved at a slower pace. The sea's calming rhythm matched the town's quiet, unassuming streets, where everyone knew everyone, and secrets rarely stayed hidden for long. Shauna Grice was a vibrant 19-year-old with bright blue eyes and a future full of promise. But beneath her cheerful exterior, Shauna was hiding a growing fear, one that would lead her into a nightmare that no one saw coming, and few would survive unscathed. Shauna had met Michael Lane at work, where he was a 27-year-old mechanic and she a receptionist. At first, she found him charming, even friendly. He had a way with words, often complimenting her with a smile that seemed genuine. Shauna, flattered by the attention, responded politely, not realizing that Michael's interest was anything but ordinary. He began to linger around her desk more frequently, making small talk that soon turned into persistent conversations. What started as casual attention slowly turned into something far more sinister. Michael's behavior escalated when Shauna began dating her ex-boyfriend, Ashley Cook, again. The knowledge that Shauna had moved on drove Michael into a jealous rage. He would wait outside her home, parked in his car, watching her every move. Shauna would often catch glimpses of him in her rearview mirror, a dark figure in the distance, always there, always watching. He bombarded her with messages, hundreds of texts and calls at all hours, each more desperate and disturbing than the last. Michael's messages fluctuated between pleading for her love and threatening her life, a terrifying mix of obsession and control. Fearful for her safety, Shauna changed her phone number and blocked him on social media, hoping to create distance. But Michael was relentless. He began to follow her to work, to the grocery store, even when she visited friends. He appeared everywhere, a shadow that Shauna couldn't shake. Her once peaceful life was now overshadowed by a growing sense of dread. Every knock on the door, every unexpected sound at night sent her heart racing, wondering if Michael had found a new way to torment her. In March 2016, Shauna reached her breaking point. She went to the Sussex police and reported Michael for stalking. She detailed the months of harassment, the threats, and the fear that had taken over her life. But instead of receiving the help she so desperately needed, Shauna was met with indifference. The officers dismissed her concerns, suggesting that she was overreacting, or worse, that she was the cause of the situation by engaging with Michael in the first place. To Shauna's disbelief, the police issued her a fine for wasting their time, labeling her complaints as trivial and unfounded. Humiliated and terrified, Shauna tried to carry on with her life, but the feeling of being watched never left her. Michael's obsession only grew stronger after the police intervention. He began showing up at her workplace, glaring at her from the parking lot, his eyes filled with a darkness that sent chills down her spine. Shauna confided in friends and family, but there was little they could do. She was trapped in a nightmare that no one seemed able or willing to stop. As the months passed, Michael's behavior escalated to the point where Shauna knew she was in real danger. She continued to document his harassment, hoping that somehow someone would take her seriously. But it was too late. On the evening of August 24th, 2016, Michael made his final, deadly move. Shauna had gone to bed that night, hoping to escape her tormentor in sleep. But Michael had other plans. Armed with a knife, he broke into her home under the cover of darkness. The eerie silence of the night was shattered as he cut the power, plunging the house into complete darkness. The alarm system, meant to protect her, was rendered useless. Michael was methodical, eerily calm as he approached Shauna's bedroom. As he entered the room, Shauna awoke, the feeling of terror gripping her instantly. She tried to scream, to fight, but Michael was on her in an instant. The struggle was brief, brutal. Michael, fueled by months of pent-up rage and obsession, slashed Shauna's throat with cold precision. The room, once a sanctuary, was now a scene of unimaginable horror. But Michael wasn't finished. To cover his tracks, he set the bedroom on fire, the flames quickly consuming everything in their path. He fled the scene, leaving Shauna's lifeless body behind, surrounded by the blazing inferno. The fire spread rapidly, smoke billowing out of the house, alerting the neighbors who called the fire brigade. But by the time they arrived, it was too late. Shauna was dead. The next morning, the town awoke to the devastating news. Shauna Grice, the young woman who had been full of life, was gone, her life snuffed out in a horrific act of violence. The police, who had once dismissed her as a nuisance, now had no choice but to face the grim reality of their failure. Irene Garza was born on November 15, 1934, into a loving family in McAllen, Texas. Her parents instilled strong Catholic values in her from an early age. As a child, Irene was known for her intelligence, beauty, and deep faith. She excelled in school, demonstrating a keen intellect and a passion for learning. Irene's beauty and grace led her to participate in local beauty pageants, where she quickly made a name for herself. In 1958, she won the title of Miss All South Texas Sweetheart, a testament to her charm and poise. However, Irene was more than just a beauty queen. She was a dedicated student and an aspiring teacher. She attended Pan American College, now the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, where she earned a degree in education. Upon graduating, Irene began her career as a second-grade teacher, where she was adored by her students and colleagues alike. Her deep Catholic faith was a cornerstone of her life. She was an active member of her local church, Sacred Heart Church in McAllen, where she attended Mass regularly and participated in various religious activities. Irene's faith guided her actions and provided her with a sense of purpose and community. Easter weekend in 1960 was a significant time for Irene. On April 16, 1960, Holy Saturday, she prepared to attend confession at Sacred Heart Church. She dressed elegantly, and as was her custom, in a white blouse and skirt, carrying her favorite black patent leather handbag. Irene left her home around 6 p.m., promising her family she would be back soon. When Irene did not return home that evening, her family grew increasingly worried. They contacted friends and relatives, but no one had seen or heard from her. By the next morning, Irene's family reported her missing to the police, sparking a frantic search that would soon captivate the entire community. The search for Irene Garza mobilized the entire community. Volunteers, law enforcement, and local organizations joined forces to find the missing schoolteacher. Flyers with Irene's picture were distributed, and search parties combed through the area. 5 days after her disappearance, on April 21, 1960, Irene's lifeless body was discovered in a canal about 3 miles from the church. Her body was found partially submerged, still dressed in the clothes she had worn to confession. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community. The autopsy revealed that Irene had been beaten, sexually assaulted, and asphyxiated. Her death was ruled a homicide. The brutality of the crime horrified the community, and the search for her killer became a top priority for law enforcement. As investigators delved into the details of Irene's last known movements, they focused on Sacred Heart Church. Witnesses reported seeing Irene at the church on the evening of her disappearance. One name that kept coming up was John Fite, a 27-year-old visiting priest who had been hearing confessions at Sacred Heart Church that night. Suspicion around Fite grew when it was revealed that he had a history of inappropriate behavior. Just a few weeks before Irene's disappearance, Fite had been accused of attacking another young woman, Maria America Guerra, in a nearby town. Guerra reported that Fite had lured her into the church rectory, where he attempted to assault her. She managed to escape, and Fite was later charged with aggravated assault. Investigators began to scrutinize Fite's actions and alibis more closely. Fite claimed he had seen Irene briefly on the night of her disappearance, but denied any involvement in her murder. However, inconsistencies in his statements and his prior assault charge painted a damning picture. Physical evidence from the crime scene further implicated Fite. A photo slide viewer found near Irene's body was traced back to him. Additionally, a witness reported seeing a man resembling Fite struggling with a young woman near the canal where Irene's body was found. Despite the mounting evidence, there were significant obstacles to securing a conviction. The Catholic Church wielded considerable influence in the community, and many were reluctant to believe a priest could commit such a heinous crime. Pressure from the church and local authorities hindered the investigation, and crucial evidence was lost or mishandled. As weeks turned into months, frustration grew among Irene's family and the investigators. Despite the evidence against Fite, the case remained unresolved. The Catholic Church's influence and the reluctance of witnesses to testify against a priest created significant hurdles. Fate was eventually tried for the assault on Maria Guerra, but received a suspended sentence and a small fine. He was never charged with Irene's murder, and the case went cold. Fite was transferred out of Texas, first to a monastery and then to various parishes across the United States. For decades, the case of Irene Garza's murder remained unsolved. Fate continued to serve as a priest in various locations, living a seemingly quiet life. Irene's family, meanwhile, never gave up hope for justice. They continued to push for the case to be reopened and for new investigations to be launched. The memory of Irene Garza lingered in the community, a stark reminder of the unsolved mystery and the need for closure. Her family's perseverance and the efforts of a few dedicated individuals kept the case alive in the public consciousness. In the early 2000s, a significant breakthrough occurred. Dale Tacchini, a former monk, came forward with information that reignited the investigation. Tacchini revealed that in 1963, John Fite had confessed to him about murdering a young woman in Texas. Tacchini had kept this confession secret for years, bound by his vows, but the burden of the truth eventually compelled him to come forward. Ricardo Rodriguez, the Hidalgo County District Attorney, took an interest in the case and decided to reopen the investigation. With Tacchini's testimony and the renewed efforts of law enforcement, the case against Fite began to solidify. In February 2016, John Fite was arrested for the murder of Irene Garza over half a century after the crime. The arrest brought a mix of relief and disbelief to Irene's family and the community. After decades of waiting, they were finally seeing a glimmer of justice. Fite's trial began in November 2017. The prosecution presented a compelling case, detailing Fite's history of predatory behavior, the evidence linking him to the crime scene, and the testimonies of witnesses like Dale Tacchini. The defense argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that too much time had passed to secure a fair trial. The jury deliberated for several days, weighing the evidence and the testimonies. On December 7, 2017, they reached a verdict. John Fite was found guilty of the murder of Irene Garza. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and sorrow. Irene's family finally had the justice they had sought for so long. Fite was sentenced to life in prison, a final chapter in a case that had haunted the community for decades. The conviction brought a measure of closure to Irene's family, though the pain of her loss would never fully heal. The conviction of John Fite brought a sense of justice, but also a time for reflection. Irene's family expressed their gratitude to all those who had supported them over the years. They acknowledged the tireless efforts of investigators, the bravery of witnesses. Janae Gagne, also known as Miss Mercedes Moore, had carved out a significant space for herself in the world of social media. Born and raised in Houston, she was the youngest in a close-knit family. Her journey to stardom began modestly, from a young age. Janae was fascinated by fashion and beauty, and her charisma made her a natural in front of the camera. She started her career as a model, initially working on small projects and building a portfolio. With determination and an eye for style, her online presence began to grow. Her breakthrough came with the rise of Instagram. Her posts, which ranged from glamorous photo shoots to candid moments of her daily life, resonated with many. Followers were drawn to her authenticity and positive energy. She would be seen hanging with celebrities. But Janae was not just another pretty face on social media. She was an influencer who genuinely connected with her audience. Despite her fame, Janae remained grounded. Her family, particularly her parents and siblings, were her rock. They provided unwavering support and kept her rooted in reality. To grow her presence online, she joined OnlyFans to help create a steady stream of income. Her presence on OnlyFans also came with risks. The platform's visibility made her more accessible, which unfortunately contributed to attracting unwanted attention. The balance between engagement and privacy became a delicate act, as she navigated the complexities of maintaining her safety while being open with her audience. Her father, a protective figure, often voiced concerns about the potential dangers of her public life, but she was able to reassure him. Because he was confident in her ability to handle the attention and manage the boundaries between her public and private life. Her father trusted her to handle her issues. Among her followers, one man, Kevin Alexander Accordo, developed an unhealthy and dangerous obsession with her. Accordo frequently commented on her posts, sent her direct messages, and followed her social media activity with a disturbing intensity. His initial attempts at contact, although persistent, were largely harmless, blending in with the countless interactions she received daily from her vast follower base. She was used to admiration. She was a very beautiful woman. There was nothing strange about his messages. As time passed, Accordo's behavior became increasingly alarming. He began sending her messages that were not only numerous but also invasive and possessive. He expressed a delusional belief that he had a special connection with her, despite never having met her in person. His messages quickly shifted from admiration to demands for attention, often becoming aggressive when he felt ignored. She started to feel nervous after Accordo started tracking her real-life movements, using her social media updates to pinpoint her location. He would also follow her to public appearances and attempt to find out personal information about her home address and daily routines. His surveillance became a constant, invasive presence, creating an atmosphere of fear and unease. She was caught between keeping herself safe and making money. On August 29, 2021, Janae spent the afternoon working on new content, responding to fan messages and preparing for an upcoming collaboration. The tranquility of her apartment was shattered when she heard a noise at the door. Thinking it might be a delivery, she went to check. Instead, she found herself face to face with Accordo. The man's presence was alarming, and she quickly realized how dangerous her situation was. Accordo's demeanor was erratic, his obsession with her clear in his eyes. He began speaking rapidly, his words a jumbled mix of admiration and possessiveness. Trying to remain calm, she attempted to de-escalate the situation and convince him to leave. However, Accordo's fixation had driven him to a point of no return. The confrontation escalated quickly, turning violent as Accordo's delusions took over. Calls and texts from friends and family went unanswered. She was usually prompt in her responses, so this sudden silence was out of character. Concern quickly turned into worry. Her close friends, who were used to her daily updates, felt an unsettling chill. By late afternoon, Janae's best friend, who lived nearby, decided to check on her. The nagging feeling of dread prompted her to drive to Janae's apartment. The friend approached the apartment, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope that everything was all right. She knocked on the door repeatedly, calling out Janae's name, but there was no response. With growing anxiety, she contacted the building manager, explaining the situation. The manager, sensing the urgency, unlocked the door. As they stepped inside, the scene that greeted them was beyond comprehension. The apartment, usually vibrant with life and color, was now a tableau of tragedy. Janae lay motionless on the floor, her lifeless eyes staring into nothingness. Nearby, the body of a man was sprawled, blood pooling around him. Janae fought desperately to defend herself against Accordo's attack. The struggle moved through her apartment, upending furniture and breaking objects. Despite her efforts, Accordo's strength and determination overpowered her. In the chaotic moments that followed, she suffered severe injuries. Accordo, in his delusional state, believed he had no choice but to ensure that Janae could never leave him. The medical examiner's initial findings were grim. Janae had died from strangulation and a traumatic concussion, while the man, identified as Kevin Alexander Accordo, had multiple sharp force injuries, leading to his death being ruled self-inflicted. Despite the tragedy, Janae's legacy endured. Her infectious positivity, charm, and authenticity left a lasting impression. Friends and family remembered her as a beacon of joy, a light extinguished too soon. Stories of her kindness, generosity, and the personal moments she shared with those close to her painted a picture of a remarkable woman. On social media, followers continued to post tributes, sharing the impact Janae had on their lives. Her influence extended beyond her content. She inspired people to be confident, to chase their dreams, and to embrace their true selves. Her digital footprint became a memorial, a testament to the life she lived and the hearts she touched. As the community grappled with their loss, Janae's story served as a sobering reminder of the perils of digital fame. It urged everyone to remain vigilant and aware, to protect those who share their lives with the world. The tragedy highlighted the need for a balance between public engagement and personal safety. Discussions about mental health, online safety, and the responsibilities of social media platforms became more prominent. The incident was a catalyst for change, pushing for better protection measures for influencers and greater accountability for those who misuse these platforms. Janai Gagne's murder is a haunting tale of obsession and loss. Her story underscores the fragile boundary between admiration and danger, a boundary crossed with fatal consequences. Let her life be a cautionary tale, a reminder of the need for awareness and protection in the digital age. In the end, Jenny's life and untimely death remind us of the human behind the influencer, the real person who touched so many lives. As we remember Miss Mercedes Moore, we also reflect on the importance of kindness, vigilance, and the preciousness of life.